Okay. Welcome everyone. I would say let's wait like 1 more minute to make sure that everyone is set up and maybe a few more people arrive. And then at 2 past, I will start the moderation of the day. Okay. Hello, everyone. Although I do not see your videos, I am delighted that so many people are interested in our rematch project and are taking the time today to attend the official launch of our 2 new reports. My name is Lea Rau, and I work as Communications and Advocacy Manager in the Berlin Governance Platform's migration team. I'm looking forward to guide you through today's event, and let's start with a few logistical remarks as always. As you may have noticed, we are recording the event to share it on our website and for those who were not able to join us today. But as only the speakers will be seen on video and all of you only with their name, I hope everyone can agree with the recording. Questions can be asked at any time in the Q&A tool, and if that doesn't work, please just use the chat. But we will only address them in our Q&A session in the third part of our event. And lastly, just a quick reminder that all of you can adjust the way that the videos are displayed on your screen for yourself, and it doesn't change like for everyone. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's agenda and our speakers. We will start the first part with welcoming words by our rematch project lead, Katja Wagner. Besides the management of our project, Katja was responsible for the recruiting and for liaising with the participating municipalities. Second, let me introduce our rematch project coordinator, Elisa Ertel. Elisa coordinates the matching and relocation processes in close collaboration with the rematch partners in Canada and Poland. She also connects with scientific researchers about our results and findings. In this position, she will share with you insights on our implementation. Our interim evaluation report was written in a joint effort of Elisa and our technical partner Parity from Canada. Representing Parity today is Laura Celeste. Laura will briefly discuss the potentials of algorithmic approaches to refugee relocation and give insights into the pilot evaluation. Finally, it will be my turn again. In my advocacy work at VGP, I focus on the promotion of European municipalities in the field of EU migration policy. I collaborate closely with the International Alliance of Safe Harbors. That's a cross-European network of cities. And we cooperate in the areas of best practice exchange and in taking the voices of municipalities to the European stage. And for Rematch, I was in the lead of writing the report on policy insights and recommendations, and I'm happy to share our key recommendations with you today. For the second part of our launch event, we are very much delighted to welcome Lisa Kamphoff from the city of Düsseldorf and Damian Böselager, member of the European Parliament, to hear their perspectives on relocation via matching. Unfortunately, Asylum Lab, a Polish organization that was our partner in the pilot phase and worked most closely with the matched and relocated protection seekers, is not able to join us today due to illness. I'm very sorry for that. I hope you are as excited as I am about the next more or less 40 minutes of sharing insights, recommendations, and perspectives on the Rematch project. And even more so, I'm looking forward to learn about your questions and remarks on our work. With no further ado, I'm now happy to hand over to Katja.
Hello. I'm very, very pleased to have you all here. So nice to meet you. It's great to see that so many people are interested in the results of our pilot project. We had quite an intensive year, so we are very happy to share our results with you today. In my role as the project lead, I'd like to say a few words about the Berlin governance platform and our approach to migration and asylum policy, and put Rematch in the overall context of our activities. The BGP, the Berlin Governance Platform, is a platform that works on the topics of democracy, urban development, climate and energy, and migration. And we bring together various partners from different sectors, and we develop ideas and concepts, and we transfer them into practice. Rematch has been the biggest project in the migration department last year. And we were inspired by the numerous European welcoming municipalities, and BGP pursues a local approach to European migration and asylum policy. And this approach is characterized by participation and the promotion of the municipalities, because we all know that the reception and integration of protection seekers does not happen in the parliaments, and it does not happen at the desks of any politicians, but it happens in the municipalities, and that is why we are convinced that we have to work closely together with the welcoming municipalities and, of course, with the protection seekers themselves. For this purpose, we, on the one hand side, support the networking of European municipalities in order to strengthen their visibility and in order to strengthen their political voice among EU decision makers. Furthermore, we actively support the development of strategic partnerships between municipal networks and transnational civil society initiatives, such as the International Alliance of Safe Harbors or the From Sea to the City networks. And of course, we implement innovative projects like Rematch. And with Rematch, relocation via matching, we not only advocate for a more progressive and human rights-based migration policy, but we provide the political decision makers with a tool to put this solidarity into practice. And the project is based on the already existing EU solidarity instrument of relocation. Just like a short definition for you to not mix it up with resettlements. Relocations enable the transfer of persons with international protection status and persons in need of international protection status from one EU member state to the other EU member state. So it enables solidarity with each other. And with Rematch, we are further developing this instrument. So we offer those seeking protection and municipalities opportunities for participation, and thus foster their agency in the relocation process. It's very important to let you know who enabled us to do this. The pilot project was funded by the Open Society Foundation and the Deutsche Stiftung für Ehrenamt und Engagement. And as Lea already mentioned, of course, we did not went on this journey alone, but with our partners, Parity and Asylum Lab. Parity is a Canadian-based organization that applies data and technology-driven interventions to facilitate refugee resettlement and community sponsorship, and is represented by Laura today. And Asylum Lab is a Polish NGO based in Krakow, and they're committed to promoting civil society and human rights. I hand over to my colleague, Elisa.
Thanks, Katja. Let me switch the slide. Okay, there you go. Hi, everyone. As mentioned before, I mainly coordinate the implementation aspect of Rematch, and that includes a lot of stuff, but mainly the data management and the technical match components, liaising with our technical partner, Parity, as you heard, and the on-site partner in Poland that also included representing the project to protection seekers. I now have a very short presentation on some key facts regarding the pilot implementation. And I want to start to explain who we actually worked with. And that is that because of the window of opportunity provided by the Temporary Protection Directive, and its loosened restrictions on movement within the EU for Ukrainians, we as Rematch were able to pilot the relocation via matching approach and successfully matched and relocated 78 displaced Ukrainians from Poland to 6 German municipalities. You can see the municipalities on the map on the right. They varied vastly in size and geographical location and also in makeup. Like I said, you can see that on the map. The 34 Ukrainian households were matched and relocated in 3 cohorts between May and September of last year. And this allowed us to adjust the process and implement learnings along the way. You can see the household compositions in the graphic. If you are interested in more details on any of the things that I say, I urge you to read our report, the evaluation report, because you can find all of the information there. Now, when it comes to the actual matching, this is, of course, a complex process, which you can find more details, like I said, in the report. But, and also I want to say the report you should have received via email, but you can find it on the website if you didn't receive it. So in short, we collected data from municipalities and protection seekers separately, but simultaneously for each cohort. That means the cities input their data into a digital tool and updated some of the dynamic data for each cohort. The data included, you can see that here in white, the general information about the city, for example, details on housing markets or diaspora communities, then number and types of available accommodation, that, for example, was minimum and maximum capacities of rooms, then professional services, like higher education institutions or job fields actively in need of workers, and other services that spanned from mental health support services or cultural opportunities. For protection seekers data, on the other hand, we conducted interviews. They were either in person in Krakow, Poland, or virtually in some cases. The interviews were conducted in Ukrainian and were based on informed consent. The data here was comprised of biodata and general information. For example, there could be language levels or job experience, or also the location of friends and family in Germany. Then special needs were, of course, very important, like accessible housing necessity. And lastly, the heart and soul of the algorithm, and also the Rematch idea in general, is that the participants each ranked 16 city services and characteristics in terms of importance to them personally. We call those preferences. Later, Laura will tell you some more details on this. All these data points were then fed into the bespoke algorithm, which simulated all potential matches to identify the scenario achieving the highest overall quality of matches for an entire cohort. That means that the match of one person or one household will always be the best match that is possible within the cohort. So it's the best match possible for each person in that cohort. Computationally, this means that for a cohort of 10 households, approximately 7 million match scenarios must be simulated. And this approach avoids group-level assumptions and biases about what newcomers need, because, and this should be obvious, individuals with similar characteristics hold very different priorities or aspirations. After the matches were generated, we informed the protection seekers of the city they were matched to. That included some information on that city as well, and also why they were matched. After up to 1 week, they informed us of the decision whether they accept that match or they reject it. Then we started organizing travel and booking the journeys and informed the municipalities who was going to arrive. That included the information why they were matched and also supporting documents like passports. The participants then also received extensive arrival guides on their match city, informing them about the local processes and circumstances, supporting pre-integration. Simultaneously, cities started preparing registration and accommodation, and I'm sure Elisa, representing Düsseldorf, will tell us more about that. And roughly 3 to 4 weeks after the initial match, people were received by the municipalities. I'm super happy to hand over to Laura now, who is going to tell us more about this process.
Yes, thank you. I'm Laura. I'm representing Parity as the quantitative research lead. And we'll talk about the approach to the algorithm and how it can be a solution to solve the complex issue of protection seeker relocation and integration. So algorithms can be used as a solution for relocation. However, there's often a lot of fears that are associated with technological innovation. So techno-skeptics often feel afraid that algorithms may involve ethical risks of automating some biased decision-making. However, we're here to share that algorithms can also be designed in a very ethical and democratic way to expand services to those most vulnerable. So Parity's algorithm, as used for rematch, addresses some of these common fears. So for instance, it introduces fairness. In the context of these scarce resources, the algorithm's designed to provide newcomers with equal chance at relocation, given their characteristics and preferences. It introduces efficiency. So cities, municipalities in different countries have limited resources for relocation. So the algorithm's able to make the optimal allocation within just a few seconds, saving hours of personnel time. It has adaptability. So migration can sometimes be an unpredictable space, and changes on the ground occur at a fast pace, but the algorithm allows us to quickly adapt to these changes and make more timely decision-making, even for large-scale programs. It offers representation. So kind of key to the heart of all our work is that the algorithm avoids making assumptions by relying on newcomers' preferences, granting them that agency to ensure their voice is part of the relocation process. And scalability. We're able to cut operational costs and personnel time to provide quick and well thought out relocation recommendations to small and large programs alike. So the algorithm approach not only can address these fears around the relocation, but it can also deliver these high quality matches, which is what the aim of the project is. So the algorithm is also a solution for longer term integration and leading to satisfaction and more positive social integration outcomes. So this is done through the focus on fairness and representation of newcomer voices. We know that newcomers have diverse goals and capacities, and ultimately their integration is dependent on these different goals. So as Elisa mentioned, in figure 5, you can see here, these are the 16 preferences that newcomers were asked to rank. And here we show the top ranked preferences. So of all 16, each one was at least a top preference for someone. So this shows that there was a very large diversity of their preferences. And this ranged from employment to cultural supports. And we ensured through the algorithm that no assumptions were made on who preferred what, just given their differences. So by avoiding these assumptions, each newcomer was given a tailored path to their preferences to facilitate these best integration outcomes. So figure 7 shows that the algorithm was able to meet these preferences more than 70% of the time. And here we see that this was regardless of family size, which had its own constraints in terms of the size and types of accommodations that were available in a small pilot. So not only were a wide range of these preferences met, but these preferences, just to clarify, that they were developed in coordination with the newcomer. So with a focus group, there was co-design here. So these can be adapted based on the relative context. But on the next slide, we'll see that the algorithm was not only able to meet the preferences, but also we asked the participants about their satisfaction and a range of social integration outcomes. And here you'll see that even after just 1 month follow-up with participants, they already felt that the services were meeting their needs. So that those 16 services and preferences were meeting their needs, that they were already starting to feel safe and connected into the community. And really importantly, starting to see a future there. We're helping to build people's futures. And this was a very positive outcome that we saw within just 1 month. And alongside these results, we also found very high satisfaction in the program for municipalities and newcomers alike. So you'll find more results like that in the report, and you can read more details there. We're currently working on the 6-month follow-up, and they're so far showing very similar trends in terms of satisfaction and positive integration outcomes. And that will be written up in the coming months, so look for that. I'm sure we'll share that out. But given these detailed results that are also in the report, we have some more insights for scalability and advocacy around this approach. And Leah will now provide the additional insights and recommendations around this pilot.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to my team members for these insightful contributions. You have now heard about where we come from and what we achieved in the last year. And now it's my turn to switch from my moderation role to my role as the Rematch Advocacy Manager, and to share with you the recommendations that Laura just mentioned that we developed based on our learnings from the pilot phase. But first, yes, thank you, Lisa. But first, I would like to remind us that with the new agreements on the common European asylum system, real solidarity is currently at stake in the European Union. Even though a so-called solidarity mechanism is part of these agreements and will include a call to show solidarity with other member states by implementing relocations, it remains unclear why member states should choose the solidarity option of relocations when there are other options available. Like, for example, the member states can also pay money instead and invest in other measures. So we are seriously concerned about the impact that the new asylum system will have on those seeking protection in the EU. And we have severe doubts that if the new policies will actually reduce the burden on member states with external borders. We do not really see this happening, and this is why we are very convinced that now is the time for innovative ideas, and that these ideas are now urgently needed to ensure real solidarity in the European Union. Consequently, we do not only want to reiterate the call for relocations, but also add our own recommendations that are based on the rematch pilot phase. So our first recommendation, first and foremost, we call to political and administrative decision makers to assume a pioneering role in implementing relocation via matching. Embracing matching procedures is their chance to translate solidarity not only with EU frontline states, but also with European municipalities and protection seekers into concrete actions. Second, we want to recommend member states to pilot relocation via matching together with us. For example, in the context of the solidarity mechanism, the admission of people rescued at sea, or other admission programs. We are always at their disposal. Furthermore, the current momentum for matching as a tool for migration governance should now be fueled by comprehensive communication of support for the concept of relocation via matching. And for this, we would like to invite all of you to join our efforts in communicating the support. Our next recommendation is a call to political, administrative, and civil society decision makers. We have a clear roadmap on how to advance and how to scale rematch. But adequate funding is now required to put this roadmap into practice. Our municipalities are where protection seekers' new future starts. We highly recommend to acknowledge municipalities' expertise and to promote their active role in migration policy. Involving them in matching procedures would be a great way to do that. Finally, we would like to recommend ourselves. Given the success of the Rematch pilot and our unique expertise in implementing relocation via matching, we are enthusiastic about sharing our knowledge, developing joint approaches, and supporting other matching projects. Let's get Rematch a seat at the table. More information on our advocacy work can be found in our advocacy report, which you can find on the Berlin Governance Platform website and on the Rematch website. A lot of you have received it via email, and you will also find it here in the chat. And we are always very interested to exchange with you on the potential and the political prospects of our concept. So now switching back from my advocacy role to my moderation role, I'm now delighted to introduce to you our first speaker. Lisa Kamphoff works in the Department of Culture and Integration of the Mayor of the City of Düsseldorf. She has several years of experience in accommodating refugees. Lisa is responsible for the coordination and implementation of Rematch on behalf of the city. This makes her the perfect candidate to share with us the perspective of a city that participated in a matching already. And I'm happy to say they also signed up for the next round of relocations right away. So, Lisa, we have prepared a question for you. As you are aware, the question is from the perspective of a participating city. What insights has Düsseldorf gained from the first rematch phase regarding the direct matching of asylum seekers and municipalities in the context of relocations?
Yes, hello, and thank you for letting me be a part of this event tonight. The state capital of Düsseldorf was very, very happy to take part in the Rematch pilot project, primarily because we are convinced by the idea of relocation. We are also a member of the Städte-sicherer Hafen Alliance, and we support new approaches to the distribution of refugees and see that projects like Rematch can be an opportunity for integration and participation and can create benefits for both sides. So if you ask me what benefits relocation via matching has for local authorities, I can tell you that I believe there are a lot. For example, pre-arrival information and opportunities for participation during the matching process, both for those seeking protection and for local authorities. And I would like to go into these two aspects in more detail. So the protection seekers received detailed information about the matched I don't like this word, municipalities, from the Rematch team, and were thus able to prepare themselves in advance for the local situation. For example, the available or unavailable capacities and offers in various areas, such as language courses, housing, or access to education. And in comparison, Düsseldorf was the largest city to take part in the first phase of the project and therefore has a wide range of offers and opportunities in many areas. But, however, it is very, very, very difficult to find private housing quickly. So thanks to the previous information about the cities, it was possible to overcome certain expectations among those seeking protection in this area in advance. And while private housing is difficult to find, the algorithm made sure that Düsseldorf matched other needs that the protection seekers indicated. The prior information, for example, about the available advice services and the steps required in the first days made it easier for protection seekers to arrive well and find their way around the city, also in a bigger city like Düsseldorf. So this means also that local advice services can be relieved and used more effective. This was also confirmed by the protection seekers, and I'm very happy about this fact. And completing the municipal profiles and thus taking the opportunity to include capacities, offers and information about the cities in the matching process also led to more predictability, which can make it easier for us to accept people seeking protection. And the municipalities also receive information about the relocated protection seekers. So, for example, illnesses or health restrictions are known, medical connections or contact with specialized advice centers can be prepared in advance. So we have shortening waiting times. And in one specific case we had in Düsseldorf, a single mother was able to receive medical treatment very quickly, and also a school place for her daughter was found very quickly, so that care could be provided and the mother could be relieved. I think this is very good. And as a result, the participatory process and the right of municipalities and people seeking protection to have a say in the matching process lead to a good fit, which is ultimately paves the way to a shared and sustainable future for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, very much for sharing the experiences of Düsseldorf. We are very much looking forward to continue this cooperation in this year. For everyone, more insights into how the participating municipalities experience their participation in our pilot phase, and which insights and recommendations we derive from that can be found in our advocacy report. So now for our next speaker, let's switch to the level of the European Union. Great, camera works, perfect. So as you know, relocations are a tool for putting solidarity between EU member states into practice, while also opening up opportunities for protection. Thus, I'm happy to introduce to you our second speaker, Damian Böselager, who serves as a member of the European Union, member of the European Parliament, sorry, and was involved in the negotiations of the future EU migration policies and the asylum system. Accordingly, Damian will share with us a European perspective on our relocation via matching concept. So, Damian, welcome here. On your website, you state that you are on a mission for a better Europe. One issue you especially care about is making the European migration system more humane and well organized. So, how do you think matching in the context of relocations, and more specifically with the participation of municipalities and protection seekers, could be an important contribution for a more humane and well organized European migration system?
Yeah, thanks, Leah, and thanks also for the previous speakers for the very interesting contributions. Yeah, look, so once we started here in the European Parliament in 2019, the Green Group already wrote a paper which very much focused on voluntary relocation, and also on the fact that matching should be part of that kind of relocation of some sort. Sorry, I'm a bit sick, so excuse me if I'm not speaking so clearly. And so that also meant that from the beginning we wanted to take into account the preferences, but also other factors of the asylum seekers, and to try to ensure that basically we also consider the voluntary potential that we see, especially actually on the municipal level when it comes to asylum seekers and let's say a welcoming continent. Since then, we have tried to really strengthen this perspective a lot when it comes to especially like the welcoming potential that we have in Europe on the municipal level, but also when it comes to the question of how funds should be available and connected to such a welcoming potential, or like basically to a matching algorithm of some sort, so that basically there would be a more localized benefit of the matching perspective. So overall, I think your project goes in the exact right direction. I think we need more of that, and I do believe that if we can, include these elements of taking the preferences of the asylum seekers into account, if we can actually get to some form of cross-border municipal level relocation via algorithms. I love any form of cool techie things. It's also part of my work here in the European Parliament. I'm very happy if we can do that. The truth, though, is, and you might have seen this, is that relocation as a concept has been I can almost say this, butchered in the compromises that were made just before Christmas on a very problematic legislative basis. I mean, I have the summary here is in front of me, and it's not clear whether there will be any relocations really happening anytime soon, because even, as you know, there are many different ways to show solidarity. Even if you're under migratory pressure as a country, that you might not be able to relocate anyone. There might be countries giving cash. There might be countries just offsetting, meaning that they're not actually sending people back to the countries of first entry. So, I mean, whether we actually need any algorithm depends on whether we actually have any solidarity, meaningful solidarity on the European level, and that just doesn't seem to be the direction that Europe is taking. That's just to put it a bit in a more global context. I still think we should push for it, and I'm also trying to do this now on a completely different level, which is the labor migration side with the EU talent pool, but that's a completely different discussion. We can have it in a different place, but I just wanted to quickly mention it. So overall, I think the project is really cool. We need to strengthen the municipal level. We need to strengthen the solidarity. And then we can think also about how to, take preferences of asylum seekers into account. And then we should have more of these projects. The question is, what kind of voluntary schemes can we now maybe strengthen in the time when mandatory doesn't really work?
Thank you, Damian, for this kind of frustrating perspective from the EU level. I can assure you and all of you that while we are awaiting the next news on asylum and migration policies, we will definitely continue to develop our own more progressive ideas further. And to give you an idea of the next steps that the Rematch team will be tackling, just ignoring that the EU is not always aligned with our ideas of progressive ideas, I would like to pass back the virtual microphone to Katja and ask her to quickly outline what the new year 2024 is holding for the Rematch team.
Thanks, Leah. Yes, I think projects like ours are needed more than ever. Maybe this is the most optimistic thing we can take from the latest developments. Yes, in the pilot phase, we kind of provided a proof of concept. And as you heard from my fellow speakers, we achieved quite some amazing results. And I'm happy to say that Rematch will be continued with the support of the Open Society Foundation and with the support of the German Postcode Lottery. So in 2024, we will focus on the technical development and on further networking with science, with civil society, of course, with politics. As we just heard, it's urgently needed. And of course, with protection seekers and municipalities. And our focus in 2024, our focus this year, to make it less complicated, will be adapting the matching criteria, the processes, and the algorithm together with parity for a successful scaling rematch, and among other things, by making the system usable for protection seekers who have different legal status and different personal background than Ukrainian refugees. Our second focus will be on transparency and trustworthiness in the processing and transmission of data and matching results, again with an eye to scalability. Third, we will have a focus on the applicability of Rematch in combination with national distribution systems and within the context of state partnerships. And last but definitely not least, a second matching and relocation phase in order to test the technical advancements. And as Laura mentioned before, the pilot project is not quite finished yet. We will publish the results of a 6 months evaluation in early summer this year. So be prepared for some more happy news. Yes, now we are open to and more than happy to exchange about your thoughts, your ideas, to kind of further think about the project and further develop the project. So please feel invited to get in touch with us. And now is the first chance to do so. And I hand back to Lea for our Q&A session.
Thank you, Katja, for sharing this outlook with us. Exactly, we want to focus this year on communicating about our project, and this Q&A session is now the kickstart to it. So everyone is invited to use this opportunity and ask all the questions that you may have about our project. You can direct them to some of us or just ask them in the chat, and then I will direct them. And if you want to, you can, of course, also ask questions to the speakers. But generally, we would invite you to focus on our project. Good. Okay. Let's start with one question for Elisa, who, as you may remember, is the project coordinator and in this position brings a lot of knowledge with her. Elisa, how many people or households rejected matches made by the algorithm? And what happened if someone rejected it?
Okay, so I might have to refer you to the report on that, because there's a lot of detail in there that I can't all reiterate now, and also the exact number is in there that I don't remember. But yes, we did have some rejections. Here I want to highlight those happened at different levels or moments of the matching procedure. So some people dropped out after their interview before ever receiving a match, for example, because of some circumstances in their family or also back in Ukraine. And some people dropped out right after the match. We did obviously ask everyone why, and we did not, if I remember correctly, apart from one case, we did not receive any reason that was related to the match. So people dropped out for personal reasons after the matching. For example, some people received promotions at a job, or, well, some family circumstances or medical emergencies, sorry. And then also people dropped out after accepting the match, and because of emergencies and circumstances out of their control. But with regards to what happened after rejection, nothing. I mean, we made it work. So if someone dropped out before the match, most of the time we had people interviewed or on the waiting list that we could replace them with. So everyone else could still receive their match. And then if people dropped out after the match or even after accepting the match, they were removed from the project. That was communicated way before. Everyone was aware that there's no option to reject and then maybe receive a different match in another cohort. We had 1 or 2 cases where it was because of medical emergencies where they really wanted to participate, and then they did in another cohort, but they were matched again and also to a different city because of the cohort composition. Yes, so I hope that answers the question, but again, feel free to read more detail in the report.
Thank you, Elisa. And as you can imagine, there are more questions waiting for you. So the next one, and maybe you can answer it together with Laura. Did most people being relocated know their own needs? Could there be a specific circumstance where a paternalistic approach could be beneficial in terms of optimizing outcomes for people being relocated? The participant who asked this says that he or she can imagine that if they had to relocate to a new country, it might be difficult to know what would be best for them. And maybe this could be the case for some of the protection seekers too.
Yeah, maybe I can give some insights from my perspective in Poland, and also during the interviews and people actually inputting their preferences. And then maybe I can hand over to Laura to speak more on the past experiences of parity with other matching and generally about the back end of the whole match process. But yes, I was involved very heavily in let's call it recruitment of participants and explaining every little detail about the project and the match process and all of that. And so I can understand that concern or question, because of course, this is a very complex decision, and handing it off to an algorithm by inputting some preferences and some ideas seems counterintuitive, but it can also make decisions like this easier, because if you rely on just making it by yourself, you might just be so overwhelmed that you don't go, or you're so scared that you don't know what to do. We had one participant, for example, a mother of a small child, who said without the project, she would have not known where to go and what to do, and she was so scared, and she's so thankful that she had someone support her, and then even have a match or city that she knows fits her needs. But also I want to make everyone aware that we did have extensive information sessions. We called them outreach sessions, where everyone who was interested in participating could ask all of their questions, and there we also explained what their different inputs into the system meant, so how they all related to each other, so what your preferences could mean with regards to other preferences, because obviously some preferences, for example, fast private housing, finding fast private housing and also going to a very large city, contradict each other most of the time. So we did put a lot of effort in explaining it all, but yes, there is a big urgent need that people think about what they actually want. That's my answer to that. Laura, maybe you want to add on?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I'll just add a little bit of context in terms of the items that were asked. So as I was saying, they were developed in partnership with the newcomers themselves. So there was a lot of feedback and iteration on what should be included. But a lot of the questions were quite straightforward. So if people wanted to, if they were interested in going into higher education, they were encouraged to rank that higher, or if they had a desire to be near friends and family, or if they needed daycare. So for sure, there were definitely different services that they might not know that they needed. But of these 16, they were all ones that some people had a very strong preference for and made that very clear. And if they had a low preference for it, they could still rank it low and it could be considered in the algorithm. But we're encouraging people to just pick their highest ones where they had a very high desire. So in terms of wanting to seek employment in an area they've worked in before, or provide training in that area. So there were things that people felt comfortable that they could understand what they were putting their preferences towards. So I think there's more detail in the report about exactly what pieces of these were asked, but it was made very clear as to what they were responding to.
Okay, thank you, Elisa and Laura. The next question is maybe best answered by Katja. And the question is, I would like to know if you share the doubt that matching systems could lead to a cherry picking among protection seekers, only allowing reception for those beneficial for host communities rather than human rights-based general admission.
I mean, we kind of designed the algorithm in a way that we explicitly try to prevent cherry picking from the side of the protection seekers and from the side of the municipalities. So I no, I don't really share the doubt, and from the experience we made, from the interviews we did with the protection seekers, from the work we did with the municipalities, there was from the side of the municipalities, there was a very strong sense of like establishing a mechanism which works in the long term and which really gives a perspective to the protection seekers. And it was not about cherry picking or about establishing a system for like a special class of protection seekers. So no, I don't share the doubt.
Maybe I
And
can
if I
chime
may-
in with one remark on this.
Yeah. Sure,
Because I
Elisa, go
don't
for
think
it.
I mentioned it earlier, and that is that the cities were not given the option to reject a match. So they input their information or data into the tool, and then they received the people that were matched. There was no choice on the part of the municipalities. But yes, it is also a system based on trust in a way where municipalities have to input their data truthfully.
And if I also may add on this, just a quick reminder that the municipalities that participated in the pilot phase, they all voluntarily agreed to be a part of our pilot phase. So they had like their own interest in piloting a new, progressive, interesting instrument, and were not signing up for rematch to like cherry pick protection seekers. But of course, this is a valid question, and it will gain importance when we think about how we can scale the project. And for this, again, maybe digital and technical solutions could be could help us here, but this is like in Germany you say Zukunftsmusik, like music of the future. We will see. We do have already ideas on how we can cope with this, and I would say just keep following our project, and we will share these ideas with you at a later point. Good, then next question, again to you, Elisa, regarding the algorithm. Does the result give more than one option? For example, in the case of rejection, is it possible to receive a second match for the same candidate? And is it possible to give extra weight to specific factors?
Maybe I can start answering that. I think I already partially answered some of it earlier when I said that if someone rejected the match, they're basically out of the project. But I can maybe rephrase the question to say that because we have received those questions outside of this event, and that is, would it be possible to suggest instead of just one match to the people, would it be possible to show them the best match and then the second best, and then they choose? And here I just want to say that computationally, from my very layman's perspective, I'm going to hand over to Laura in a few seconds, but computationally, this is a completely different beast. This is far more complex because the choice of one person impacts all of the other matches, because it's always the best match within the group. So no, the system is designed that it proposes the best match for this person within the group, and if they reject it, they are out. But I want to also say, in a scaled version, in different circumstances, it could be thinkable, for example, to not give a choice to reject or not to make it mandatory, but this is a completely different discussion and it depends on the context.
Yeah, and I can just add that the reason that one match is given was actually to discourage people from cherry picking as well, saying, oh, I reject, maybe the next time I'll get a different match or something to that effect. So there was a lot of time and consideration put into ensuring people understood why they were matched, and there was a lot of transparency around what they chose and how that was matched and how that was met. And that, again, there are also different approaches to algorithms that may give top choices, but there's a lot more involved in refilling spaces and things of that nature. So the algorithm, as our current approach, is to put forward the best match across the whole cohort and make sure there's a clear understanding on both sides as to why this match was made. And we found, especially in our project in the US, we've had 100% acceptance of those matches there. So it's a lot around the communication and understanding as to why the match has been made. That's very helpful.
Okay, thank you. I think the next question kind of fits with this question. So it is, why did you focus on preferences regarding services available in potential cities, towns, in the list of 16 possible preferences? Because much of the available research about how migrants and displaced persons decide which countries or towns they want to move to showed that this is not one of the main factors in the decision making. It is usually more cultural factors, historic family links, mental imagination of the place from media or people's stories, nature of an environment, nature of environment of the place. Have you considered factoring in these other preferences?
I think this is a very complex question, and I'm sure we all agree that the ideal matching algorithm or system would include all of these things, because we all are aware how we choose our homes. And yes, ideally that would be perfect, but I don't think it's that easy. Speaking from someone who has seen how people choose and what they talk about amongst themselves in a family, for example, how they make the decisions, I don't really think it actually is possible to do all of this and then get a better match than we do right now. Sometimes simplicity is better. Not saying that we have the perfect ideal system right now, not at all. Like I said, or like we all said, we piloted those 16 preferences, and those were targeted at Ukrainians specifically. They will and would look very different given different countries of origin. Also in a group where there are participants from multiple different countries of origin. And let me think about the question. Research. Yes, so I think that a lot of we called it imaginaries around what the algorithm can do and what they need in the future, they do not really impact in actually how well someone is going to integrate, and when it comes down to first reception and admission to a city. And some things are non-negotiable. So for example, if someone does need accessible housing, for example, if someone is in a wheelchair, they cannot go to a city where they have no available rooms that are accessible. But in the current system, at least in Germany, that's not factored into decisions. People will go and will be dropped off, and the city will have to make it work. I can say that because I used to work for many years in refugee and asylum seeker accommodations in Germany, and I know that's how it works, where kids that can hardly walk have to climb stairs. Things like this are non-negotiables, and they are very important to the immediate needs when someone arrives, and that is what we are targeting. But yes, we would need and will need some more discussions on other factors when we see the results of the 6-month evaluation on integration outcomes.
And I would just add onto there. So in terms of historic and family links, that is one of the 16 that we're asking people, and it gets more weight if you have family nearby and would like to be close to family. And also in terms of cultural factors, there are quite a few, like having a cultural community nearby, if that's important, or being near other cultural groups. So in the discussions with newcomers, this did come up, and so that was incorporated into the algorithm as is currently.
Hey, thank you. The next question is actually directed at me, kind of. It is, do you think rematch would make sense to match asylum seekers within Germany itself from reception facilities to municipalities within the federal state? So yes, of course, we believe that matching can be a contribution to a solution at many different aspects of the migration governance in the European Union, not only like between member states, but also within countries. And some of you may know it, there's actually another matching project in Germany that does focus on this. It's called Match In, for those of you who haven't heard of it before. But for now, Rematch, the name is actually based on it, is rematch, like it's a relocation via matching. So our focus is on relocation. I think it would be a bit too ambitious to develop like one instrument that is that you can use for all different parts of migration governance. So I'm happy that we are not the only ones that believe in matching, and that other organizations also work on this. But yes, we do think that it would make sense to have matching also here. Speaking about the distribution of protection seekers inside of a state, particularly Germany, one more question for Katja. In Germany, each city has to take in a certain amount of refugees. This is like based on a quota. Does the relocation, I would guess the rematch relocation, count to this quota?
Yes, I just quickly answered it in writing, but yes, for everyone, the relocated protection seekers could be added to the quota of the city. So it was not an not extra people, but they were included in the quota.
Okay. Thank you for this answer. The next question is directed to Elisa and Katja. I have a question about managing expectations. Studies on settlement have shown that people's expectations of living in larger or smaller cities can be influenced by their previous experiences in their home country, as well as their ideas gathered from media and references from contacts. Do you think it would be helpful to ask protection seekers why they have certain preferences and provide them with additional information to challenge or complement their preconceptions? That is not an easy thing to ask to achieve, and there can be various misconceptions in the process. But I just wonder whether there could be any space for protection seekers to explain where they are coming from. Maybe
I'm
Elisa,
very happy about this question.
Yes, I know.
This is a great question, and this hits the nail on the head what we dealt with during the implementation. So whoever asked this has a good imagination about what probably goes through people's minds and our minds whilst doing this. So expectation management, I think Katja and everyone else in the project can attest to that, was something that concerned us before we even started talking to protection seekers, because we knew that expectations can be a problem, can be helpful, of course, as well, but we didn't know how that would impact people making actual choices in their interviews until we tried it out, right? So what I can say to this specific question is we did actually ask people why they made certain choices. For example, like I said earlier, especially in the first cohort, when we threw people kind of in to see how they answer, and then we could learn from that. But in the very first cohort, a lot of people put their highest preferences on large city because they think or thought that they wanted to go to a very large city. Most of them out of our project cities only had heard of Düsseldorf. And then they also put a high preference on finding private housing really fast. And we all know that doesn't really work. And that is based on imaginations, like you said, from past experiences or their home country. And then we explained, this is probably not the best idea. The algorithm can not do magic. And both of these criteria will most likely not be satisfied in one city. So you should think hard about what is actually more important to you. But to go more into detail about your question, and that was is there a possibility to maybe influence that by providing more information? And yes, there is. And by providing this information to the people change their choices. And when you read our evaluation report, you'll find one very impactful quote, excuse me, from one woman that said, I didn't want to go to this small city. She went to our very smallest city. I didn't want to go here in the first, in the beginning, but now that I'm here, well, it's just like at home. And she comes from Kiev, and she said, here, maybe there's no subway, but we have a train and I can go to all of the close by cities. And she understood that the algorithm took her choices into account, which was not what she thought was the best choice for her. And she's super satisfied, and her child is super satisfied as well. And this is exactly in one case where we proved that a choice, an approach like this works, and explaining to people what their choices mean and listening to them to adjust our approach makes it better. But this is something that we need to put more research in and also more thought, how to have this rollout for everyone, so everyone understands what their choices mean and how they influence the result. I don't know if this is answered all of this as well. It's a long question. Sorry.
I think it's fine. And if not, I would just invite the question who asked the question to ask it again. Then let's head to the next question. Lisa, get prepared. Is there a way to compare the outcome against a baseline relocation approach? How much does the algorithmic approach improve the outcome, for example, in terms of refugee happiness or other measurable outcome, employment or health? For example, if the same information was provided to both the cities and the refugees, but the underlying matching was created in some other way, would the positive outcome be similar? This question is asked because Düsseldorf mentioned that the pre-relocation information was important, but it was not clear if the matching itself was important.
Maybe I can give one small disclaimer and input from my side and then hand over to Laura, but and my other colleagues, of course. But I just want to highlight that it's difficult for cities to perceive the match quality, especially given that none of our participants has lived in the city now longer than a year, some of them around 1 year, but still it's very difficult to see. Is it because of the match and the overlapping interests and overlapping services and all of that? Or is it because of other factors, because people were actually involved in the decision making and the empowerment they felt, and then they went into the whole process more informed and more with more agency and more willingness to integrate, more willingness to understand the less fear maybe about the local circumstances. So it's very hard to perceive this. We can only figure this out by asking the protection seekers. And like I said, we're still doing this currently, but also comparable data, to find comparable data to see with other relocation projects is, well, I don't want to use the word impossible, but I don't think there's a lot of research on, or scientific research on relocations that do not use a matching algorithm. But maybe Laura, you can give some more insights into this because you have dealt with other matching projects before.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
As a quantitative researcher.
That's always on my mind, how we can show not just change from baseline to longer term outcomes, but in a comparative manner. So one of our projects in the Netherlands, Samen here, was took a similar approach to have a comparative group who was not matched that way, but was relocated. So that's a report that you could take a look at, where there is comparative data. At the end of it happened during COVID, so there's some caveats there, but the report shows a comparison. And also in the US, where we have a project where we're looking at how our matching would then compare to other comparative projects that are done in a similar manner, but without this this matching piece. But that's to say, it comes to the design of the project. So this project was designed without a comparison in order to help as many people as possible, given the scope of the project. But that's something that we're constantly looking at. If there are other similar comparable things that we could analyze in accordance. Another approach with an algorithm is that you can actually, based on the data we have, we could simulate things as well and have that be our comparison. So simulate things and follow up accordingly. So there's future directions that we're looking at for sure.
Thank you, Laura. There is time for another quick question. How did you choose participants? This takes us back to the very first steps of the relocation process. Were there many more people interested in being matched than you were able to include in this pilot? Maybe Katja or Elisa could answer this.
Yeah, I can answer this. Together with our Polish partner Asylum Lab, we did quite an extensive outreach and publicized the information about the project in the Ukrainian community of Krakow. And after participating in an information session, the people who were interested in the project were able to kind of register on a waiting list. And at the beginning, we had significantly more interest than we could cover in our first cohort. But we were then able to include these people in the program in the following 2 cohorts. We did 3 cohorts altogether. So we tried to put together groups as diversely as possible, and our kind of limiting factor was the availability of accommodation in the cities. So, for example, if we know the cities could only provide, so let's say, 3 accommodations for a family of 4, then of course it would not make sense to have 7 families of 4 in one cohort. So that was our only limiting factor, but otherwise there was no limitation to what kind of people or groups could register for the program.
Thank you, Katja. So as far as I can see, we have only one more final question, which is, was ensured that participants understood why they were matched? I think this is also an important question that was sent to us beforehand, because we haven't really had the chance to talk too much about the participants' participation, as unfortunately Asylum Lab is not here with us today. But I do know that Elisa and Laura also have great answers to this question. So please go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can start because I was the one who wrote the information for the matched people, so they understood where they were going. And this was quite a difficult task because you want to make it concise so that people are not overwhelmed, and maybe some things are super important and interesting to us, but someone who is looking to relocate from a precarious situation might not need all of that information. Of course, I do not want to put words or thoughts into anyone's mouth or mind. This requires further looking into. So how much information does someone want or need? We are asking people that in our research, and we have seen in our evaluation that this is one of the factors that people are actually not as satisfied with. That sounds very bad, but it is actually not. It is just that it is difficult to cover everyone's expectations and needs with one approach where you need to push out the information rather quickly because you don't want to make people wait any longer, but also have it be concise. So this is something that we're looking into, and we're definitely going to adapt that for the future, or then this year actually. But yeah, this is difficult, but we are very focused on ensuring that people understand why they are matched so they can make informed decisions, because transparency is super important to us. And also it is very crucial to how happy someone is with a new home, basically.
Laura, do
Anyone
you
else?
want to add on this?
Yeah, I can just add that so the participants were shared with like which of their preferences were met that they were requesting and things of that nature. But I think in the next phase we'll engage with newcomers again to see what is most important. But there are technological solutions, so we can create a dashboard with their information to share exactly how things came about, and then just have transparency around why things were selected and how that how the decision was made. We found, especially in other projects, is very helpful. People feel they have agency, and then they also understand what's happened. We're trying to get away from this black box of what an algorithm is. We try to show all of the inputs and then all of the outputs, so everyone understands that this is the most equitable way forward.
Thank you. Good. Okay, so this leads us to the end of the Q&A session. Thank you to my team for answering all the questions. Thank you to everyone for being part of this rematch milestone moment today. In these challenging times, we hope that our ideas and insights for more progressive migration and asylum governance have not only sparked your interest, but also kind of equipped you with new energy for creating meaningful impact for functioning future in solidarity with other countries, municipalities, and those who have a right to protection. I would like to invite all of you to promote the role of municipalities in migration governance and to spread the idea of relocation via matching. We are thankful if you are able to forward our reports and a recording of today's event within your networks. Both can be found, as I said before, on the Berlin Governance website, Berlin Governance Platform's website and the Rematch website, and we will also send the recording to all of you. Also, I would like to repeat that we are very, very happy to continue today's exchange with you. So please don't ever hesitate to contact us with your questions, your remarks, or also with your ideas on how we could advance and scale this project. Thank you to the Rematch team and to everyone who showed their interest today. I wish everyone a good evening and hope to meet you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.